Chapter 24 of the Enchanted Barn. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Gail Mattern. The Enchanted Barn by Grace Livingston Hill. Chapter 24. The car that was bearing Shirley Hollister through the lonely wooded road at a breathless speed suddenly came to a halt in the rear of an old house whose front faced on another road equally lonely. During the brief time that they had been in the woods, the sky seemed to have perceptibly darkened with the coming evening. Shirley looked about her with increased fright. It was almost night, and here was her prison, far from town or human dwelling place. Even the road was at some distance in front of the house, and there were more woods on either side. "This here is Secretary Baker's summer home," announced the man who had done the talking, as he climbed out of the car and opened the door for her. "You can just step in the back door and go through to the parlor. The help's all out this afternoon. The Secretary'll be down presently. He always takes a nap afternoons about this time. I'll tell him you've come." There seemed nothing to do but obey, and Shirley chose to let the farce continue. Surely the man must know she was not a fool, but it was better than open hostility. There was nothing to be gained by informing him that she knew how he was guying her. "Oh, Jesus Christ, I trust myself to you," she breathed in her heart as she stepped across the leaf-strewn grass and looked about her, wondering whether she should ever walk the earth again after she had stepped into the dim, tree-shrouded house. But why go in? "I think I will remain out here," she said calmly, albeit her heart was pounding away like a trip hammer. "Please tell Mr. Baker to come to me here. It is much pleasanter than in the house a day like this." "Ah, no, you won't neither. The Secretary don't receive in the open air, even in summer," drawled the man, and she noticed that he and the driver straightened up and stepped closer to her, one on either side. She gave one wild glance toward the open space. There was simply no chance at all to run away, even if she succeeded in eluding them at the start by a quick, unexpected dash. They were alert, athletic men, and no telling how many more were hidden in the house. "Oh, very well, of course, if it's a matter of etiquette," said Shirley pleasantly, determined to keep up the farce as long as possible. A cold, dark air met the girl as she stepped within the creaking door and looked about her. At her left was an old-fashioned kitchen, dusty and cobwebby. A long, narrow hall led to the front of the house, and her guide pointed her toward a room on the right. There was something hollow and eerie in the sound of their footsteps on the old oaken floor. The room into which she was ushered was musty and dusty as the rest. The floor was covered with an ancient ingrain carpet. The table was covered with a magenta felt cover, stamped with a vine of black leaves and riddled with moth holes. The walls were hung with old prints and steel engravings, suspended by woolen cords and tassels. The furniture was dilapidated. Everything was covered with dust, but there were finger marks in the dust here and there that showed that the place had been recently visited. Through an open doorway an old square piano was visible in what must be the parlor. The place seemed to Shirley fairly teeming with memories of some family now departed. She leaped to the quick conclusion that the house had been long deserted and had only recently been entered and used as a rendezvous for illegal conferences. It occurred to her that there might be an opportunity for her to hide her precious papers somewhere safely if it came to it that she must be searched. How about that piano? Could she slip some of them between the keys? But it was hardly likely that there would be opportunity for anything like that. She felt strangely calm as she looked about upon her prison. He ain't come yet," remarked her guide as he glanced into the front room. "Well, you can set down. He won't be long now. Joe, you just look about a bit and see if you can find the Secretary, and tell him the young lady is here." The man flung himself full length on the carpet-covered couch and looked at her with satisfaction. "What train was that you said you must make? I'm afraid now you might be going to be just a trifle late if he doesn't get a hustle on, but you can't hurry a great man like that, you know." "Oh, it's no matter," said Shirley coolly, looking around her with the utmost innocence. "What a quaint old house! Has it been in the family a long time?" The man looked at her amusedly. "You're a cute one," he remarked affably. "I believe you're a pretty good sport. You know perfectly well you're in my power and can't do a turn to help yourself, yet you sail around here as calm as a queen. You're some looker, too. Blamed if I'm not enjoying myself. I wouldn't mind a kiss or two from those pretty lips." But Shirley had melted through the doorway into the other room, and her voice floated back with charming indifference as if she had not heard, though she was ready to scream with loathing and fear of the man. " Why, isn't this a delightful old piano? The keys are actually mother of pearl. Isn't it odd? Would Mr. Baker mind if I played on it?" And before her astonished captor could get himself to the doorway she had sat down on the rickety old haircloth stool and swept the keys lightly. The old chords trembled and shivered as if awaking from a tomb, and uttered forth a quavering, sweet sound like ancient memories. The man was much too astonished to stop her, amused too perhaps, and interested. Her white fingers over the dusty pearls in the growing dusk had a strange charm for the hardened reprobate, like the wonder of a flower dropped into the foulness of a prison. Before he could recover he was startled again by her voice, soaring out in the empty, echoing house: "Rock of ages, cleft for me, let me hide myself in thee. Let the water and the blood from thy riven side which flowed be of sin the double cure. Save me, Lord, and make me pure." Perhaps those dim, gloomy walls had echoed before to the grand old tune, but never could it have been sung in direr strait, or with more earnest cry from a soul in distress. She had chosen the first words that seemed to fit the chords she had struck, but every syllable was a prayer to God in whom she trusted. It may be the man felt the power of her appeal as he stood rooted in the doorway and listened while she sang through all the verses she could remember. But the last trembling note was broken harshly by Joe's voice at the kitchen door in sharp, rasping orders. "Hist there! Can that noise! Do you want to raise hell here? Wake up, Sam! Get on to your job. Hennie's coming." "That's all right, Joe. Dry up. This is good Sunday school dope. This won't rouse no suspicions. Go to the devil and mind your business. I know what I'm about." Shirley was almost ready to cry, but she drew a deep breath and started on another song: "Jesus, lover of my soul, let me to thy bosom fly, while the nearer waters roll, while the tempest still is high. Hide me, O my Saviour, hide, till the storm of life is past." On through the time-worn words she sang, while the sin-hardened man stood silently and listened. His eyes had gradually lost their leer and grown soft and tender, as if some childhood memories of home and mother and a time when he was innocent and good were looking out his eyes, reminding him of what he once intended to be before he ate the apple of wisdom and became as the gods and devils. Shirley gradually became aware that she was holding her strange audience, and a power beyond herself steadied her voice and kept her fingers from trembling on the old pearl keys as she wandered on from song to song, perhaps happening on the very ones, who knows, that this man, standing in the dying twilight of the old gloomy house, had sung beside his mother's hearth or in church during his childhood. Certain it is that he stood there silent and listened for at least half an hour without an interruption, while the light in the big room grew dimmer and dimmer, and all about the house seemed still as death in the intervals between her voice. She was just beginning: "Abide with me. Fast falls the eventide. The darkness deepens. Lord, with me abide," when the man put his hand in his pocket and brought out a candle. Scratching a match on his trousers, he lit the candle and set it carefully on the piano, where its light fell flickering, wavering over her worn young face; and who shall say that she was not a messenger from another world to this man who had long trodden the downward path? They were interrupted, however, before this song was finished, by a newcomer who entered like a shadow and stood at the end of the piano, looking wonderingly from Shirley to the man when she glanced up. She stopped, startled; for although he wore no brass buttons nor blue clothes, she was quite sure those were the very same gray eyes that had looked at her from the recess of the window in the government office that afternoon; perhaps the same boy who had come after her car and sent her off on this long way into the wilderness. The man Sam straightened up suddenly and looked about him, half ashamed, with an apologetic grin. "Oh, you've come, have you, Hennie? Well, you been a long time about it. But now I guess we'll get to work. Where's Joe? Out in the watch? All right then, miss, if you've no objection, we'll just take a little vacation on the psalm singing and turn our attention to worldly things.
I calculate you're sharp enough to know what we brought you out here